Glasgow-based listeners, next week, because you're hearing this on Friday, Isolani hits cinemas for 1 week. It's well worth going to see if you get the chance. We will be delighted and honoured to have two of the actors and the director, Paul Wilson, in with us soon. So if you have any questions, fire them into us, and also go and see the movie, because it's only around for a week, and it deserves to be seen on a big screen for sure. So go and do that.
Yeah, Cineworld, Renfrew Street, Glasgow.
Yeah, do that now, if you live in the area.
Yeah.
And if you don't, drive here. Hello, everyone. This is an odd surprise for you, isn't it? You don't usually get greeted at the beginning of an episode. I'm currently sat across from a very confused-looking Yann, who's wondering what on earth I'm actually doing, talking to you before the actual episode starting, breaking the fourth wall as it is. No, this year, I just had an idea of kind of making the beginning a bit more personal, you know, more one-to-one relationship with you listeners, because I occasionally look at the statistics and the number of downloads and all the jargony stuff that you can kind of get obsessed over, and I've been obsessed over it. In the beginning, I was definitely obsessed over it, but now I've tried to take a step back. And realising how many people there are actually out there that listen, I thought, why don't we make each episode a bit more personal and give the introductions a bit more of a friendly feel, because I feel at the moment they've changed. We've had musical intros, we've had snippets, which are quite fun to do as well, and as you're about to hear in Mandy, Yann's got a very specific one, so we don't even know if this will be on the Mandy one or not, or is this just a test. If you are hearing this on Mandy, I hope you enjoyed the last episode we did, which was What We Do in the Shadows, which is, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that one. Nice, easy 90-minute movie. Anyway, Mandy is quite a piece of work, as you will hear us discuss in this episode. And if you haven't heard of it, it's probably because it wasn't super widely released. But Yann will give you all the details because he is super into the production company that's behind this movie. If you do get a chance, give this one a watch, and also stick with it, because at some points it might be quite difficult, but it's worth it in the end, in my opinion. Okay, so I feel that was quite nice, a little conversation between you and me, listeners. You will hear from each one of us different each week, so don't tell Anouk or Yann what we talk about in these little segments, because I want that just to be between you and me as a listener to Adam. Anyway, also, you might hear me at the end of the episodes saying you can find us social media, all that. This year, if you do enjoy the episodes, just leave a little review on iTunes or wherever you listen to it. It really does help us out, and it will make more people get involved in these little one-to-one conversations we're having this year, so we can have more people in on the jokes. All right, on with the episode, and the next voice you hear will be Yann, showing how much of an actor he is, but I haven't heard it yet because we record these just before we do the episodes, so have fun, and I am eagerly awaiting the surprise as you are, so on with the episodes.
I think that you both shall see the cleansing power of fire cannot be reasoned with.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
We are back. So today is all about Mandy. So Mandy is a film directed by Panos Cosmatos last year, 2018, starring Nicolas Cage and Andrea Riseborough. There is also Linus Roache in there who plays Jeremiah Sands and plenty of other people. Do you have anything to say about that film right off the bat?
Surprisingly, it's a very English and, well, we'll say English, I mean British cast. I did a bit of research into the casting, and Nick Cage and Bill Duke are about the only two non-British people in this movie. Everyone else is either, there's a lot of it's Welsh, Irish, and then obviously Andrea is English, a graduate of RADA, who I last saw in Battle of the Sexes at the end of sometime this last year, and also in Death of Stalin. She is Stalin's daughter.
She was really
in
good in
Death
that.
of Stalin. She's really good in that.
Really good.
But she's also a movie we might do one day because it's regarded as a terrible movie. Is she's in W.E., which is a film directed by Madonna, based around the relationship between one of the kings of England who had Prince Edward, who abdicated to be with her because she was a divorcee. Yeah, it looks not great, but it might be worth talking about one day, just if we want another strange movie. But yeah, that was nice.
Okay, so our viewers can actually see the VHS. Well, kind of. So basically, HMV, they have this collection called VHS Range, and it's you can see if you have the video. It looks like a VHS case from the outside, and inside you have actually the Blu-ray and the DVD of the film. And it's funny because this one was released not so long after the actual premiere of the film, and it was a bit more expensive than the usual ones that they have on HMV, and it sold out immediately. That's, I think, the only one of the whole range that is sold out.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. Also, this film was produced and in a bigger capacity than usual by Legion M, and Spectrovision also, which is the company where Elijah Wood has investments.
Yeah, he's the founder. It's him and two other guys are the founder of Spectrovision.
Yeah. Legion M is the company funded by fans, and who better than Anouk to explain what it is now with the help of the Christmas present that I have for you guys. That's the one. So there's the welcome letter in there, so if you could read that for the world.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Do you want to do, is it all you, or do you want to do section by section? That might be kind of interesting.
Oh, shit. Sorry. Okay. This is cool.
Should we go paragraph by paragraph?
If you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be quite fun.
To Legion M's newest shareholder. First, let's take a moment to acknowledge the exceptional taste, both in friends and in gifts, of the person who gave you this package. You can tell a lot about someone by the company they keep, and the fact you are holding this letter means we like you already. Second,
on the behalf of thousands of fan investors around the world, we'd like to formally welcome you to the Legion M family. About this time, you may be wondering what that means.
Legion M is the world's first fan-owned entertainment company. We're a worldwide community of more than 50,000 people, fans and creators, dreamers and doers, who have united to build a media company of our own. It's kind of like Disney back when it was just Walt and Roy, except that for the first time in history, the company is designed to be owned by fans rather than corporate investors.
Why? Because we believe in an entertainment company owned by fans is better than one owned by Wall Street. Fans are the ones who buy the tickets, pay the subscriptions, and decide what to watch. Our wallets and eyeballs fuel a multi-trillion-dollar global industry. Individually, we are just consumers, but when we unite, we have power.
The Legion M logo is an M with a bar over it, which is the Roman numeral for 1 million. That's because our long-term goal is to unite 1 million fans as shareholders of the company. If we can achieve that goal, we'll have hundreds of millions of dollars to produce movies and shows that have 1 million fans standing behind them. We believe that could make Legion M one of the most influential companies in Hollywood.
And today, thanks to the generosity of your wise and wonderful friend, you bring us one step closer to that goal. Today, you become an official co-owner of Legion M, alongside Kevin Smith, Dean Devlin, Leonard Maltin, Bill Duke, Tim League, Stoopy Buddy, Studios Meltdown Entertainment, 42 Entertainment, Alamo Drafthouse, and thousands of other fans around the world. Welcome to Hollywood, baby.
The gift card in this package is your ticket to register your shares, which you should do immediately. They could be extremely valuable someday. And learn about the amazing opportunities, events, and activities available to you as a Legion M shareholder.
On behalf of the entire Legion M community, welcome. We're ready to put Legion M's shaped dent in the universe and couldn't be more excited for you to be a part of it.
How cool is that, Yann? Thank you so much. What a great gift.
And it has a little card. I'll cover
Yeah.
the user code just at the bottom, just to show you. There'll be I've only had the 4K thing on. We could have zoomed, but yeah, there we go. We'll post a photo of it on the Patreon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool. We have 2 shares in Legion M. That's very cool.
So cool.
They only started at the end of last year to sell those as 2 shares. You needed to buy at least $100 before. Now it's better. They do loads of stuff. They did. When was it? 2 years. What was the year there? Yeah, 2 years ago in July they had a huge party for Stanley's birthday, 78th. And there was a book that was made and T-shirts and stuff, a tribute with plenty of fans and people and fans, celebs or not, explaining how and everything they. Oh, there's also those pins. Well, the other one must have fell off somewhere, but there's
Oh, awesome.
And they're also doing. I think it's in next week another party to celebrate his life. Now he's no longer there, but look, I'm decent now. Look, I've put myself in a decent position.
This is not in any way disrespecting Mandy at all.
If you've seen the film, you'll get why Yann is dressed like this.
Oh no, definitely see the film.
You need to see the film to get this.
Otherwise, this would not make any sense.
Otherwise, Yann just looks like he's forgotten to put trousers on today.
Yes. So in the Legion M store, there was the Mandy screening box inside which you have the cheddar goblin mac and cheese, if you want some, and some coasters, and some magnets and some codes to get the songs, and some posters.
Oh, it's quite cool that they have the codes for the songs, actually. That's really cool.
Yeah. And there are some rules for the party. That's why it says here, okay, pro-party tips, pre-party before guests arrive. Prepare to play the film at best quality on best screen with the best possible speaker set up.
Which we did.
Preferably a rocking surround sound system. Determine whether you want to rent or purchase the film from, and you've got some links there. Prepare some cheddar goblin mac and cheese and get drinks prepped. Foreplay with guests. Mandy's special cocktails and libations are plenty. Play Forging the Beast on repeat at very high volume. Use free code cards included. Pass out movie still posters and coasters for people to take home. If you have a lot of guests, maybe make them earn the right to take them home. The Cheddar Goblin beanie goes to the MVP of the party. Get tattooed up with the Mandy tattoos. And serve Cheddar Goblin mac and cheese. The main event, lower the lights and crank the volume up. And crank the volume to 11. Prepare for a mind-blowing experience and remind them about the Jóhann score. Watch for the mosaic in the credits. Remind everyone that if they like the film to get online and share... Remember everyone that if they like the film, to get online, to share with friends, write a review, etc. Encourage your guests to use the merch cards and discount and everything. Right. Yeah, and you've got some explaining some cocktail recipes inside.
Yeah, I had a look at them yesterday. Some of them there's one that includes a whole bottle of red wine.
Oh, that sounds like my drink.
Yeah, it's an intense one. I read it. I was like, oh boy. So
I'll put the red thing to myself instead of Mandy.
oh dear.
So I have my period now. That's disgusting.
Oh, geez, cheap joke. This film itself, for me, was totally bizarre. What makes this more entertaining for me is because part of the Christmas giveaway that we did for our Patreon subscribers, my mum, who's a Patreon subscriber, took this on Blu-ray. So at some point, they will watch this movie. And my mum rarely watches movies without getting up to do something else at the best of times. And if she does that with this movie, she will not have a clue what's going on. And it's rare that you have a movie that you are kind of enveloped by. And I'll use that phrase more often about other things in this movie as well. But I did get up to go to the bathroom at one point, but I was trying to work out when to go because I didn't really want to miss what was going on.
Well, I okay, sorry. Better?
Yeah. Just talk into it.
What? I am.
I know you were above it, that's all.
Okay. I forgot what I was about to say.
Enveloped by the film.
Yeah, it was great. It was shocking because I had read a little bit about the plot and but I wasn't expecting it to be put in this way. Like the lighting and the cinematography was so different in each scene. Like the way that there was red and then there was green, but there was like a line in between the lights, and like how did they not mesh together? In certain scenes, like it was like somehow just really well lit.
Well, I don't know how it was made eventually, but what I know is that it was filmed digitally and plenty of stuff, including the grain, was added afterwards.
Well, I've got a little note on that because I did some research into it. It was filmed mostly with anamorphic lenses. The way anamorphic works, I don't fully know enough about the way we film things, which I should as an actor as well, because I feel it's a part of your responsibility. Because if you know how the lenses work in a scene that you're in, you best know what to do. Because unlike theatre, a lot of screen stuff is technical as well. Like if you know what you're being shot on, you know how to adapt your performance. Like the most common one for an actor on stage screen is how close the mic is. That depends on how loud you are in the scene and the level of the intensity that you perform with. Anamorphic lenses, basically, the best way to describe it is take a picture that, say, look, we're in widescreen, right? We're like 16:9, or like any film that you watch that has the two black bars above it, like widescreen. An anamorphic lens will take that image and fill it to the screen, so it'll look like it's zoomed in. So what you get is you get a better picture, like a closer picture in, but you do lose a tiny bit of quality, which is why this film has sort of like the graininess in the darker scenes, because that's where you lose your pixels in like dark. It's harder to light dark than it is to light. You know, the more dark something is, the harder it is to see. Like the graininess comes in. So anamorphic lenses are used in this, and that's why you get the sort of like really grainy sort of 80s feel to it, because you have this sort of really in close picture with a different style of lens, because that's one of the things that makes this stick out, is that it doesn't look like any other movie out at the moment, in my opinion. I mean, the closest I was looking in editorial style, if you look at like even Baby Driver does something interesting with like how you watch a film and go, how the hell did they edit this? Because there's scenes in this where you see like bright red mist and different coloured sky and flashing green strobes, and you're thinking, did they have the green on the set? Did they do this effect practically? Or did they add that in post and just have to go with, I know what this is going to look like in the final product?
It might be a mixture of both. I mean, it seemed like anyone that was involved kind of knew what they wanted. And so like every single scene, there was a meaning behind nearly everything. No, not nearly everything, everything. And it took me back because it was like, there was so much to read in each scene. Like you could listen to the dialogue and you could really focus on the acting, or you could come back, watch it another 4 or 5 times and realize something different because you could focus on something differently each scene because there was so much going on. And to be able to do that and not make it like overly stimulating, it's pretty genius.
Because to mirror, if you're watching the live streamed version, no, actually, it won't be the live stream version. It'll be the video version of this. You'll see Yann doing one of the scenes in the film at the beginning of this episode, where Nick Cage comes into the room and he's just being as Nick Cage as possible. We'll get into Nick Cage in a minute, but in that scene, because
he's just seen his wife being burned alive. Yeah, to be fair.
In that scene, that's one of the first times I noticed the camera being further away, and then it comes in this. If I'm not mistaken, that scene's a one shot, right? There's not a cut in that.
No.
Right. So you get this sort of like traditional wide image, and then we come into the image that we've seen the majority in the film in.
When it sits on the toilet, yes.
Yeah, which is great because you have this moment of distance from what's just happened, like this almost, I would say, for Nick Cage's character, the inciting or turning point, we can argue this, depending on what we think the overall narrative is. I would say it was his inciting incident that changes his life. And the fact that we're so far away because we don't know what we're doing with this scene, we're like, how would you feel? And then we come in as the reality sets in for his character. There's just so much going on in this film, not just on the surface level, as Nick said. And that's just one example of using the camera to illustrate that idea.
I think it's because the director probably wanted to give Nicolas Cage the space to just freak out or take his time in realizing what just happened and what he because that's immediate PTSD. I mean, oh my goodness. But then to go through the fact that you just saw something awful, you went through something awful, you've just been stabbed in the kidney, and then you watched your dearly beloved being burned alive, pretty much.
Well, yeah.
I mean, she was alive.
Yeah, we see this skull at the end.
And it's moving. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, the skull isn't moving. But there's a point where you see the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And she's still screaming. It's pretty horrific. Yeah. Somehow tastefully done. And I think it's because there was no sound. So you didn't hear her scream. It was just the movement and the amazing soundtrack of, I think his name, Jóhann Jóhannsson?
Jóhann Jóhannsson.
Yeah, that's
Jóhann Jóhannsson.
Yeah, his last ever.
Who died last year,
yes.
RIP.
We'll get into him. I've got some great stuff about him later because I was reading up on him last night.
Yeah. But I think that was, so, we didn't get the screaming then, and so we kind of didn't feel overly screamed at when Nicolas Cage was going through his breakdown. And I think sometimes films do that. Like it's too zoned in on the sound rather than I don't know, it was almost like you took a step back and you were listening to the music and the slow motion of her like writhing in the bag as well. You didn't even see her body.
This is the thing when you get a film that knows what it wants. The thing you're describing, because you would, if you're in a Hollywood movie, I imagine this scene is like there's some like dramatic music going on. You can hear her like screaming her lungs off, and you hear Nicolas Cage screaming, "No, no, no." I mean, this has been done before. I mean, I was on the phone to my dad the other night, and he was saying, "I just watched Saving Private Ryan," and that was like 20 years ago. And you see the scene. We've talked about it before. We talked about it in Overlord, on D-Day Beach, and everyone they go like, "Oh yeah, that scene is." It reset cinema back to like, oh God, we can do this now with technology and the idea behind it. Everyone in that scene, they pick the one moment, and it's the moment when Tom Hanks is in silence, and you just hear like the sort of throbbing of the war going on behind, and everything's in slow motion. There's no sound. It's just like tinnitus, basically. You just hearing like white noise and all the disasters going on around. And it's kind of like that. It's when a film knows what they want to achieve, they go, right, okay, so in this moment, we're robbing you of your sense because the character is losing something else. You know, like they want you to focus in on one thing, so they strip back other things like sound and all that sort of thing because they want you to focus on what is happening in front of you. There's no real distraction. It's highlighting this one event, and also in the literal sense of like it would deafen you, it would blind you. The whole like this one thing is just shut off all your senses if it actually happened to you.
Yeah, I think it's less self-indulgent as well. It's like you kind of focus on the loss and the actual emotion that the people dealing with this loss would deal with, rather than you watching a scene and being like, oh God, this is so horrific and bloody and gory and everyone's screaming and it's so visceral, which works sometimes, but then it probably would have been too much to then allow Nicolas Cage for the audience to watch Nicolas Cage then freak out.
Yeah, I mean, coming from last year watching the 8 Saw movies, to have a scene where a torture scene is very nuanced is quite a difference, actually. As much as I love that series, but it is nice to see someone do something with this integral moment to the plot. That is the most integral scene. If that scene isn't done well, the rest of the film has no momentum to keep going. They had to get this scene right. It's the selling point for the rest of the story, and it's handled with real care. Actually, it's because there's loads of stuff goes on in it. We get hot, we get the burning, we get one shots that identify how all the other members of the cult are feeling. Yeah, it's just a great scene. I'm assuming people have seen the movie that are watching this, but the basic idea of this movie is that did we do a plot summary? Did we do a wee bit? Not really.
Not really.
Not
no.
really. Well, Nick Cage and his wife live out in the woods. They're very secluded, almost like fairy tale-esque actually relationship where they live in the woods. And then one day his wife is seen by this sort of hippie cult, and their leader goes, I need that woman, and then they come back to get her because their leader is the Messiah, and everything just kind of kicks off from there. And as we've just discussed in the scene, Nicolas Cage loses his wife, and this causes him to go on a classic revenge style movie. And the rest I won't spoil because we'll talk about it in this. But that's the basic outline of the plot if you haven't seen it. Do watch this film because it's kind of unlike anything out right now that I've seen. There probably is a lot of independent cinema that plays with ideas like this, but this is done in such a way that it kind of just draws you in, you know?
Yeah. I mean, again, before I watched it, I read a bit about it on like Wikipedia, so not super researched, but I think going in and not realizing what kind of film it was even more shocking because the plot doesn't sound very psychedelic or dreamscape style. It could have been a really normal film in terms of how it was shot, but they've decided to slant it with kind of like a psychedelic swirly world where everything's slightly distorted. And I feel like there were times when it was like, okay, this is really weird. But it somehow didn't go over the edge. Like, it's pretty genius to be able to know the boundary of like, okay, this is too weird. Like, I'm going to switch off now. And being like, okay, well, this is super weird and fucked up, but I'm still invested.
I'm curious, Yann, because Yann was the one that made us. Yann was insistent that we did.
Made us.
Yann was insistent we did this movie. Like, for the last 3 weeks, Yann has basically been like, "When can we do Mandy?" And we've been like, "We'll do it."
Not the drug.
So I'm curious, Yann. A, how did you find out about this movie? And B, what was your kind of first take? Because this isn't the first time you've seen this, so I'm curious for your perspective of it.
Yeah, I wanted you to see for a while, and I don't have my notes with me, so plenty of stuff will be left out. I guess we probably could do some episode 60, 70.8 at some point. But anyway, how I learned? Well, via Legion M. Legion M they produced, but not in that's the project they produced in the biggest capacity is Mandy. But their name is also attached to Colossal and Bad Samaritan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, they invested money in that at the post-production stages, whereas here it was, I think, either pre or in the middle, but not just after it was done. So that's how I learned about it. I went to... So basically there was a premiere in London last year. There were 3 screenings during the BFI orbit. It's 3 different on 3 different screens in London over the course of the same week, and everything was sold out. But it was so successful that the Prince Charles Cinema, where there was only 1 screening, they extended it, and they had it for, I think, at least a month, once a day. A screening a day for a month, and that's when I went to see it at the Prince Charles Cinema for the first time in the, I think it was the upstairs cinema just in front. So that was large. And yeah, exactly as something that you said while we were watching it, that is the exact sentiment that I had and I still have today. That I had never seen anything like it before.
Definitely. I mean, the way it plays with even colour, the way the film starts with these almost, well, I think of them like Rebel Without a Cause, because Rebel Without a Cause starts with these like bright red credits because it's the 50s and the colour scheme is so like vibrant and it's shot on, funnily enough, of Panavision, which this film is also shot with Panavision, the company, along with the anamorphic lenses. And I actually have the camera. I wrote down the camera they used, which is I do have it somewhere. I thought I did. Maybe I don't. No, I don't. I think it was an Arri Alexa. Alexa Arri was. I remember reading it last night. I did not write it down, so I might be wrong with that. But it's a digital camera essentially. So with Panavision, anyway. With that bright redness in Rebel Without a Cause. And then this film also starts with like these super bright red credits with like this sort of tinted grey-green trees of the forest. And even from this like opening, you're going, okay, so there's something definitely up with this film. And then obviously you when we get into it, when we see Nicolas Cage's car, I think he's called Red, although his name's never really...
Red, yeah.
Yeah, I've read that after it, but I don't think it's ever really... It may be said by his wife.
Once or twice,
yeah. But it's not super there. You get the strip of his car is like orange and red sort of colour on the side of it, and it's like super vibrant. You're like, okay, so the colour scheme is definitely up here. Which is nice because a lot of films that everyone thinks are great always skip on certain departments of a film will always fall down. We've talked about this before. First, we mentioned it on Alien because I always talk about Alien as a great example of when all department comes together. This is another case of that, especially with the colour and the sound team. If the colour is done post, I mean, the vision of the director and the cinematographer had to be spot on the day because they knew what it was going to look like. Because I can't imagine how many Instagram posts or Twitter posts or online posts are going to be from people that take images, like standing stills from movies and like go, oh, here's this shot, and then do a bit of trivia and then a bit of that. There's a guy that we follow, or maybe I follow on Instagram, which I will put in the description. I can't remember his name because I don't have my phone on me, but he does a lot of them. We mentioned one before with Trainspotting about
color palette, something.
Something like that. Yeah, we've mentioned one before. But they all, the amount of people that will be able to do, you could take a single shot of this movie and put it in a that was so Scottish, put it in a picture, put it in a picture, and it would look like a piece of art. It would work.
They're the one that
Oh dear.
That's one for our American audiences.
Put in a picture. I didn't ken that, did you? They didn't ken what that meant. Tells you how long we've been doing podcasting that I even heard that as I said it and went, I better correct that because nobody's going to understand what I just said there.
The one that we have in the background was one of the still that was included with the party. Yeah, in the party box.
This amazing kind of perspex box that their bedroom was in.
Yeah, their whole house because yeah.
But it was almost like they had their house and then they had this
conservatory sort of thing.
Yeah, but it wasn't glass because it was like it looked like it'd been scratched, so it looked like it was perspex, or maybe it's because maybe that was the graininess of the camera or the mist behind, because of course it looks onto the forest, which is misty, and you've got the grey green palette of the colours. But it looked like it was thicker than glass and more. I was about to say milky. That's weird. So you know when glass is like scratched, it looks kind of something.
It could be safe. It could be made out of safety glass, because safety glass is thicker because it has to break. It can't break into little fragments. It breaks into bigger pieces. Or sorry, the ones when you see somebody go through a window or a mirror in cinema and it breaks into all these like tiny little shards.
Sugar glass.
Yeah, like sugar. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. I was about to say, how much money do you think they spent on dry ice for this movie?
Oh,
half the budget must have been on dry ice.
There were two scenes that stuck with me, and actually I had dreams about them.
Oh God, then you know it was good, don't you?
Yeah, because so the one where the Bible bashers were driving in their kind of Scooby-Doo.
That's great, Nick. Well done.
What van?
No, it's good. I like that.
And
really good
and Linus Roache, his name is Jeremiah something in the film. Jeremiah Sands in the film, and he sees Mandy for the first time. And it has the red wash over the camera, over the shot, and she's walking with cigarette in hand, and she's just got this long black hair that's almost like ring-like, and this scar over one of her cheeks, and she's just staring at the camera, and it's like the camera follows her.
Oh, is this the one when it goes back? It keeps repeating that little bit.
Yeah. And it keeps repeating it. It's like a pan shot of the camera in the van, and she's walking the other way, and so it's like a pan shot, and it's just completely red, and you just have this contrast of the black of her hair. And the darkness of her hair and her white face, and it was just so, it like literally stuck I don't know, something in me. Oh, for God's sake!
You mean struck something in you?
Yeah.
While you were just describing it, I've just realised what that scene is. It's a double take. It's Jeremiah, fucking hell, Jeremiah seeing her and doing a double take. That's what that scene is. And I've only just worked that out then by thinking about it. It's like, right, that's what that is. And the reason for that is because there's so many shots in this film that some people, the only people I don't think that will get anything out of this film are people that not over criticize film as per se, but hate films that try and be too arty or try and be too something. Like, for example, some people hate the film £7 with Will Smith because it's such what they call an Oscar bait movie. Like it does these certain things because it knows it has to do it. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, so I don't know what I think about that. But, you know, like something that tries to be too artful, which you could look at that scene and go, it's just trying to be arty. But if you sat and thought about it, you go, that's what that is. Like, I just figured out there, like, all right, it's him doing a double take. 2 points about that scene. Anyone get any Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes from that sort of opening scene where, you know, the opening of Texas Chainsaw, where it's our heroes are in the van driving south, and then they pick up a hitchhiker. I got that vibe from that scene. And the appearance of Mandy actually reminds me of the actress from The Shining. You know, his wife. With the long, with the long hair and the sort of like shallow face as well.
You can tell that is it Panos Cosmatos?
Yeah.
Yes.
The director, he's a huge fan of horror films apparently, and I was watching a Q&A of Nicolas Cage, Linus Roache, and Panos Cosmatos, and he was talking about how he used to like watching like figurines melting.
Yeah, okay, you get that, yeah.
And how that is super fucked up, but like you kind of like after watching this film, as soon as he said that, I was like, yeah, well, I mean, and I know that there were even some, because it kind of goes from real life characters to kind of it's almost like a comic book cartoon like drawings that kind of are connected to the fact that Mandy used to draw, but also it kind of shows I don't know, it's almost like a dream style way of shooting and editing a film, where each time something, you know, Nicolas Cage closes his eyes, it's like he's dreaming, and this is how he dreams. Yeah. And this is what he keeps seeing. Like, he's kind of haunted by the fact that she was killed in this horrific way, and he sees her in this like goddess-like way. But there are moments when the dream becomes a nightmare, and there is a moment where it's when he takes the drugs from the jar. Really weird. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what those people
from hell.
What were they supposed to signify? I mean, I kept on thinking about The Hills Have Eyes, because that definitely has scenes like that where you go into this like room where it's super messy and there are jars everywhere, and there are these two people dressed completely in latex.
Well, I think it's got a lot. You're right with Hills Have Eyes, and you've got like Wrong Turn and all these sort of like, and even Cannibal Holocaust and all these sort of like Cabin in the Woods, all these sort of wood things. Horror films have a thing for woods because
no one can hear you scream, and
well, that's space, babe.
No, well, that too.
It's just because it's the tagline from Alien.
No, in terms of no, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. That sort of thing.
As long as you can hear the horn of Abraxas, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, even that didn't. I mean, it's super weird, but it wasn't over the top. And I feel like there are some films that might only talk to a sci-fi loving audience, and in terms of and I do like sci-fi, but there's a point where, you know, I am a little bit more mainstream. In terms of this film, it somehow balances that out really well. Like, it kind of, I feel like most people would like this film.
Yeah, I was going back on what I was saying about because I never made my point with all the sort of wood stuff. Is that when I first saw these bikers, I was like, why would demons of hell be on actual motorcycles? And then the film establishes what they are, and then you get, oh, that's even more fucked up if they were actual demons. So this whole thing of like having people, strange people live in the woods is the kind of fear of, it's to play in the fear of the unknown and you don't know what's out there sort of vibe. And again, we have to bear in mind that this film is set in the 80s and biker gangs in the 80s were a thing. So, you know, there are aspects to the setting the time of this film. Not just with the style of the way it's shot or the sort of adverts on the TV and the style of dress, all these sorts of things that are there. We've also got to have villains that would fit into this time. Also, to bring back to what I was saying about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when we get to when the hillbillies invade their house. Sorry, hillbillies will call the bikers. When the cult take over their house for the scene where they take Mandy for the first time, not the drug, the woman. They do drug her, but she is like tied to a chair, which is very Texas Chainsaw Massacre style. And there's another film that I can't remember off the top of my head that does that exact scene. And more recently, for you video game players, Resident Evil 7, when you wake up in the house with the family at the dinner table, there is a mirror image of that sort of scene. So that's a very not common but very stylized take on the like waking up and like somebody taking over your house. Like we associate Mad Family with Texas Chainsaw, and if you have anything that invokes Texas Chainsaw, you immediately go, okay, this family's fucking mad.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, obviously in the beginning you're like, are these people human? And they're just wearing suits that make them look like, demons. And then when it comes out that they actually are probably from hell, I don't know. Yeah, okay.
It's funny as well because obviously Mandy wears a lot of 80s metal t-shirts, but she starts the film off in a Motley Crue t-shirt, which really does set the scene, like Motley Crue and all this sort of like crazy metal music. Well, not even metal. Like Motley Crue is more like heavy rock. And maybe I don't think you would call that metal, because metal to me I associate with like Black Sabbath and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. It was very 80s in the sense of, if you listen to 80s music, Motley Crue is kind of its own style, and that's why Motley Crue can still tour and still work. It's like how Def Leppard and all these sort of like glam rock bands, the ones that really did something, remember today. In Britain we have like the Sex Pistols and stuff like that sort of music that exists to today because it's so independent of itself. But the whole aesthetic that went with Motley Crue in these sort of like really heavy music scenes, warlike, say, not even satanic's the wrong word, but like sort of dark villains of the night sort of thing. You know, like they would inspire well, you've seen them, people that are into like, say, nowadays Slipknot, you know, with the masks and all that sort of stuff. There's a very Slipknot vibe to the bikers. You know, so that heavy metal vibe does attract people that dress up in these really gothic and to some people quite scary costumes, to the fact that people will be scared of Slipknot because they don't like how they dress, even if they're not listening to the music, which is quite interesting too. So
when Nicolas Cage Red goes to see Carruthers in the trailer,
yeah,
And I mean, and nearly any horror film needs to have like a wise old man that knows about the kind of journey that this person is going to go on. So that's this scene. Maybe I misunderstood, but I heard that there was a biker gang that took drugs that like fucked them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
got that. Yeah, okay. So because of course then Red takes those drugs, right?
For a split, he like licks his finger. He like
Yeah.
dabs, like as you would do with if you just like a piece of sherbet or.
But he sort of changes.
Well, he has like this mad moment of like boom, 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 like flash. Like, comic book trip. Just this total fucking weird trip that implies that if you just had a dab of this, you'd be fucked. If you drank the fucker. Because the first scene, we think they're drinking blood because it plays on Are These People From Hell? It's not. It's the LSD, liquid LSD that they're drinking, which is just absolutely mad. Side note, Yann, what do you mean you don't have notes? Where are they on the computer?
They're on the phone that is filming.
Oh shit! Oh dear.
Yes, and
nuts.
it didn't transfer to the iCloud of the computer for some reason, or I would have them. And now, my iPad is somewhere without battery, so that's.
Do you remember any of your notes, or do you just like what do you feel? Because I feel like me and Anouk have been talking for a while. Do you have what are your thoughts with Mandy, Yann?
So I got the vinyl for this, and there is a few words from Panos Cosmatos talking about the composer, which I will tell you about right now. I miss Jóhann. He reminded me of my father in some ways. Gruff on the surface, but at his core he was sensitive and kind. Most film composers work solely to enhance the actions and emotions on screen. Some transcend this and can create a tangible and memorable atmosphere as well. The composer whose work seems to metaphysically flow from and within the images themselves is the rarest breed. Rare because there is alchemy at work. Rare because it requires an almost preternatural sensitivity and openness to the images they are working with and the skill to articulate it. Jóhann was such a composer. On one occasion, I said to him, I want it to sound like being a kid in the back seat of your friend's big brother's Trans Am, and it smells like weed, leather, and that yellow pine tree air freshener. You're kind of scared, but it's thrilling in a way, too. Without hesitating, he responded, I know exactly what you mean. Towards the end, he told me Mandy was very important to him personally, and it stood to reason. Despite the delicate beauty of much of his work, Jóhann loved heavy metal and psychotronic cinema. He was a rebel at heart. Jóhann went above and beyond, and I suspect to the limits of his sanity, to make the music for this movie. His words and his actions made him more than a great collaborator. They made him like a brother to me. I'm sad our time together was so brief, but I'm very proud of what he accomplished on Mandy, and I believe he was too. Of course, the definitive version of a score is what. Now, of course, the definitive version of a score is what appears in the film itself, deeply intertwined with the images it was created to live and breathe with. Soundtrack albums are their own beasts, though, whose magic lies in those sounds being freed from the warm, shadowy embrace of the screen to live in the real world, among us, in a prism of infinite contexts. When you listen to this album, When you listen to this album, I'd like to think of it as Jóhann's being out there, in a way, with you. Panos Cosmatos, director.
The thing is with this composer, because I did a lot of research on this guy, because there was something I really liked about him. I wrote down a phrase last night because what I do for episodes that have a very distinct soundtrack is I will go away and I will listen to A, the soundtrack of the movie, B, any other soundtrack that they have composed. So I listened to a bit of Sicario's soundtrack, which is by this guy, a little bit of Theory of Everything, and he does he's uncredited with, I don't think they played it, he did a bit of Mother as well, which I didn't listen to.
he worked a lot with Denis Villeneuve. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I listened to, if they have any, their solo work, which me and Anouk listened to last night. And again, enveloped. I listened to a song called, and we'll link this to the YouTube. And if we could, I don't know if we can have a playlist on Spotify, but we might make a playlist if I can figure out how to work that on our page. Flight from the City, which is a 6-minute piece that is essentially a linear piece of music, or what through composed is probably a better phrase of putting it. I think I've mentioned through composed before, but through composed essentially means that it just continues. It just keeps going and going. I don't know if it's truly through composed because it's the repetition of the same sort of melodic thing, but each time it has a different thing. Anyway, it's like it just kind of washes over you and you forget about everything else, because usually I listen and go like, okay, I can hear this and that, and work out what ear is playing, what music is coming out of which ear on your headphones. But there was something about it that just kind of washed over me and just went, okay, I'm kind of just listening to this. And it's very much his style, which I've written down as electronic classical. Not in the sense of, for example, you get electric swing, which is the swing music from the 30s, but with like some electronic beats over it. I mean, in this sense of like, he very much puts classical ideas and what could be easily composed as classical music, but then throws electronic sounds and drones and hums and beats and nothing over the top. Electronic stuff that, if it was around in the classical era, would be used in the same way, which is really quite amazing, because when you get new technology in music, you look at trends nowadays, you see like, oh cool, we can like, the drum beat, for example. When the drum beat came out, everyone just threw it on whatever, and it was that sort of style. A lot of music takes new things and tries to do new things with them. I think it takes a real skill to take something new and go, how could I incorporate that as if it came out in the classical era? Which is more fast. That's kind of like why I'm into electric swing, because when it's done right, you're like, that's quite clever. That's really cool. And this sort of has this air of just classical music, but with an electronic twist with it. And it's kind of mashing the old with new in a way that isn't like, I'm trying to create ultra new. Like this music sounds distinct, and if I heard something that was Yann hiding behind the LP there, which is a very nice bright red blood color, instead of trying to create something ultra new that's like, this is my own distinct bootprint, you've created a bootprint by making something that could be is a new genre in itself. And I think that's a great legacy for this guy who is no longer with us, and it's a tragedy, because I don't know if you guys feel this, if you discover someone new, be it an actor or, well, I had it for James Dean when I discovered and then found out subsequently he died. Like, you discover that this new person, and then you find out that, I'm never going to discover, they're never going to create something new. I'm never going to get this feeling again of that they take what I loved in the first place and done something completely new, which is a great shame, because I think this style of music, and especially in this film, because everything is so 80s right now, it can be easy to get lost in like these 80s soundtrack music. Like if you think of like Stranger Things on right now, and I'm not saying Stranger Things soundtrack is bad by any means, I'm not saying that at all. I mean, it could be quite easy to get lost and not be able to identify who is who. But this has such a distinct feel on it, and is integral to the movie as well.
Indeed, it's nice that it's original, because the film sounds so original. So it's nice to know that you're not watching something that's super new and amazing, and you kind of want to go down a rabbit hole of films that are kind of linked to this kind of genre, which I think is kudos to the people that were behind, that created it. But then listening to something that you've already heard, I think what's nice is that you're also learning new sounds, and it totally matches the scenes and what's going on. Like the love song to Mandy. It's called something like that, but Ode to Mandy or something like that. It's kind of, you know, it almost becomes a motif because you see it in different scenes of the film, and that becomes a bit comforting when you hear it. It's like, oh yeah, I've heard this before, and that's connected to the loss of her that is felt by Red.
Mandy Love Theme.
Mandy Love Theme.
A motif for listeners that might be unfamiliar with jargon is essentially it was used in operas to identify characters. So, for example, if like Brian comes on stage, so Brian has his own theme, and then you come on. Lord of the Rings is a great example. If you listen to the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, you will hear every character sort of has a motif, and the different races have a motif. So when you hear a piece of music that is for the elves, you'll go, oh, that's the elves, which will completely contrast, say, the people of Rohan. So each of these individual races have their own music. So it's just a way of identifying different characters through music motifs.
Mm-hmm.
There are different versions of the vinyl LP for this. That's the bright red transparent, which is not limited. The limited one is transparent, so it's sold out already.
Oh, wow.
Entirely transparent, and there's a standard black one, obviously.
I mean,
the vinyls are nowhere to go. They are not going anywhere. I'll show the Anna one when we do the episode we talked about.
Oh yeah.
This one is transparent with the blood splatters and everything. It's awesome.
It's a really nice LP, actually. For all these people that love to stick them on the wall and not listen to them, you can have a nice arty piece of feature. Oh dear. Although I guess people might do that, like they buy the limited one, put that as an artwork, and then listen to like the regular one. I mean, I guess that's okay, but I'd rather you played them, not stick them on the wall. Just saying.
Yeah, well, I've got both.
Good.
I have the black and this one. Did you? So basically, okay. When filmmaker Panos Cosmatos first conceived of what would become his visionary debut feature, Beyond the Black Rainbow, he simultaneously came up with a concept for Mandy, and Mandy would become the sister film to Beyond the Black Rainbow, although it took over 5 years for her to take her first steps. I was not able to find any way to watch his first feature, but apparently it's the same kind of madness and uniqueness to it.
I'd love to find it.
It's very strange because I did a bit of research on his dad, George P. Cosmatos.
Oh, yes. Controversial figure.
Who does a couple of... He's prolific... No, I wouldn't say prolific, but does films in the 70s, 80s and 90s. And the most mainstream of those is Rambo First Blood Part 2. Is directed by his father, which kind of is like a classic action sort of 80s movie, which kind of made me think that there are things in this film that take ideas that are in Rambo Part 2 and like distort them with his own like artistic vision. So there's a bit of homage to his father in a way, with this sort of, you know, like this I'm going to kill everyone who's wronged me sort of idea, you know, which is really nice to see. You take something that your father could do and then you would put your own spin on it. It's what we talked about in a previous episode about, you know, in the story of film and the story of music is people seeing what other people have done and going, oh, that's really cool. I like that. I could add to this and make it different in my way, you know, as opposed to seeing something and copying it, you know, for note. Which is really nice to like carry on like the name. We discovered his father it's either him or his father is Greek Canadian, which I thought that's a great I've never heard of somebody being Greek Canadian, which is really interesting. I'm like, oh wow, that's so cool. Just because it's probably like there's some Greek Canadians listening to this going, yeah, what's the big deal? It's like, no, sorry, I've never just heard that phrase. It was really cool.
Question. So I was adamant that we watched this with all lights off. Do you? That's the first time we've ever done that, to watch with all the lights off. It was a good idea, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Did we not have everything off for Saw? Maybe the first one. I don't remember. I don't,
Yeah, but it wasn't like specifically like
No, we didn't-
have to
yeah,
watch
no,
this with
we
the
didn't-
lights off.
Yeah. You're right.
It was more that the lights just happened to be off because we were watching a film, but like this needed to be at night. Because there were times where we were busy in the evenings and we would just say, okay, well, we'll have to do this episode later because we have to watch this at night. We can't do this during the day. And so there were specific things that we needed to do to be able to see this film. And like, actually, it really worked because we've got a great TV.
Yeah, cheers, Yann.
Cheers, Yann. Again.
And a good sound speaker. Cheers, Mom.
Cheers, Mom. Cheers, Carol. And the just it's because it's all about the lighting and the cinematography. Like there is literally every single scene, there's a reason behind everything, and you know that was thought out and researched. And like for example, when Nicolas Cage comes out with a chainsaw and then there's the other guy sitting down and he brings out a bigger chainsaw and you just see a car on fire. It's like, what? Like, and but it made sense for some reason. You were like, well, yeah, of course. The car in the background is on fire.
There are so...
And now they're going to have a chainsaw fight.
The beast is, well, that's how it's called in the cocktail recipe thing, but maybe that's also the name of the metal axe that has a big serenity or Buffy feel, like this huge scythe kind of thing.
The thing, I do agree that we should, if certain films we should watch in the dark. It did make me think of Alien, but that was because there was a scene in this that I was like, that's Alien. And it's the scene where the bikers invade the house to get Mandy and Nicolas Cage. It's very much like the scene from the original Alien, which is, I'm looking forward to this year because they are releasing a 4K version because it's 40 years of the first film.
Lovely.
Which I will be picking up because hopefully it's a good adaptation update. Anyway, it's very much like the scene where...
Oh, the lightning strobes?
So strobes?
Yeah, the strobes. Very much like the scene when the guy, I always forget his name, who he passed away a couple of years ago.
Harry Dean Stanton?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Yann. Every time Yann reminds me it's Harry Dean Stanton. Is trying to get Jonesy the cat, and it's the alien in the vent. Not the vent, up in the top. But there are two cuts of that scene. The director's cut is with up in the chains, and then I can't remember the theatrical cut because I haven't seen it in a while. But they are two different scenes, but they both play with like this sort of like in the dark, are they really there? And then you see it, and then you don't, and then you see it, and then you don't. And then later on in the film, in the vent, when you turn around and the alien just like gets you, where the light comes on. And there are flashing images in the flashing light. There is another scene Yann's probably reminded me of, but I can't remember if it's in Alien or Aliens, where like there's lights flashing and the aliens come out. But that was very much a very Alien sort of scene, and I was like, I quite like that. The other one that sticks in my head,
but also the fact that it goes to total black, I thought was quite interesting because sometimes you'll see figures. You know, when the lightning strobe like dies down, you'll still be able to see things. But the fact that, and actually it happens when Red sees Jeremiah in the weird Jesus house.
The Hitler Jesus bunker.
The Hitler Jesus bunker, exactly.
And then he cuts off Amber Lynn's head.
He goes from red to slowly dies down to total blackness, and that's something I haven't seen.
Sorry, did I just say Anne Boleyn?
Yeah.
As Hitler's wife. Like, no, that's Henry VIII's wife, right?
You mean
Ava Braun. Anne Boleyn. I know why I'm thinking Anne Boleyn because she got her head chopped off.
Yeah.
There's a bit of GCSE tutors banter for you.
No.
Even though I don't know.
Even though Ava Braun was pretty much killed by Hitler. Even though.
Well, yeah. I just meant the crazy wife of the devotee. Anyway,
Corfu was in this. Corfu
the Tiger.
Yes.
That was a weird scene.
I do forget that scene. If there's one scene I don't get in the film, I think it's that one. I think I'd have to sit and figure out what was going on. I know he's making the LSD, and he's used to tell you where they are hiding.
Oh, but it's funny because Red doesn't need to speak, so it's almost like it's in his own head.
It's because he takes he tastes the LSD before he does it, and
and then he goes immediately to the scene, and the guy who's making the drugs, it's totally otherworldly because there's no color. It's like black and white, which is contrasting to every other scene. And then he's also standing on millipedes.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Which is odd, and he's
also
naked.
Yeah, he's like naked. He's like
with a black
almost
apron.
like Walter White in the beginning of Breaking Bad.
With a black apron, and his voice is like auto-tuned. It's like slightly robotic. And he's got a tiger that Nicolas Cage somehow makes him let go. I don't know. I wonder if maybe there are some YouTube videos on, analyzing this film. That'd be really interesting. I mean, I don't want to ruin it for myself or anyone else.
There's a channel that explains the ending of everything, which I'm like, okay, fair enough. Because I like to make up my own minds. I don't like people distinctly telling me what the ending of something means.
But when it's a film like this, sometimes it's nice to know what other people are thinking, because
that's true.
The director would probably, if anyone asked him, it would probably be like, well, what do you think? Do you know what I mean? Like, it is kind of up to the audience, which is, I think quite a lot of directors feel that way. Like, I made this film to make you feel something, and it doesn't matter if it's not what I feel. This is supposed to resonate with you on a personal level. So it's probably what we think it is, but it'll be interesting to see what other people have seen, because obviously everyone watches their film in their own personal way. So in that sense,
to finish the sentence, I was saying the other scene that was really distinctive is the transition between Jeremiah's face when he's talking to Mandy, and then it goes to Mandy's face, and then it goes back. Like the overlay, which is very Nosferatu-esque, how they got the whole like coming out of the coffin or like disappearing sort of thing is how they did that. For a loving of Nosferatu, but that scene was very distinctive as well.
It was interesting.
That scene itself, I've got a question for both of you, where when Jeremiah tries to seduce her with his music that he's written himself. Have any of you, and this includes me, I'm trying to think if I have any of you been in that sort of moment when somebody's like trying to impress you? It doesn't have to be like in a date sense, like he is here with their art or something they've done or even something like that, and it is terrible like his music is in this film.
I think from the get-go you're supposed to hate this person because he's an idiot. He treats everyone horribly, and there is definitely like a Charles Manson-esque feel to it, where, and I mean there are so many cults, so it's not just him. That it's kind of immediately disgusting. Like, you never for a second think this guy is charming and lovable, and I completely understand why these people follow him. It's literally on the offset. Actually, I think the first time you meet him, he's lying on the bed and he's treating this other woman like horribly, and then he gets another woman to come in it's hinted that to have sex with him or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, this is smarmy and horrible and blah. And then in this scene, what's nice is that she doesn't give a fuck. Mandy's like, so you wrote this song about yourself, and then she laughs so intensely that it becomes almost demonic. But it's almost like it probably wasn't that intense, but to him it was so personal. Like, I'm laughing at you, because he's just pathetic and obviously has a lot of trauma and needs to go see a psychiatrist.
So, like I asked, have you ever had a moment like that?
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. No.
Babylon for...
No. I'm just curious. It gives you time to think as well.
Did I have a moment? Oh, of course I have.
Go on then.
Oh.
If you want, don't share if you don't want to.
With name and everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell us. I was just like, have you had a moment like that? Does this and the question follow up would have been, which you've already answered, would have been, how did you think the scene translates that feeling of?
Well,
being in that moment of realizing someone's music is terrible, or
especially when you're dealing with someone who it has invited people round to his house to show how rich he is, or to show how amazing he is doing in life. Like, you know, this is my TV, this is my, you know, I'm a stockbroker, whatever, I don't know, whatever he does, I'm an investment banker,
shade,
and just because you have to have that level of entitlement of like, love me, I only see things in material ways, which is immediately boring and like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, I'm gonna go now. And then the kind of expectation of like, because I have invited you to my house, shown you my music, shown you, you know, how rich I am, and I've spent so much money on drinks for you, etc. You now need to pay me back in sex. And it's like, no.
Was this in London?
Yeah.
Oh,
but also this is an amalgamation of like
every night.
So many instances where it's like, really, you like that. And I mean, I think any woman, and men probably, women probably do this all the time too, will relate to that of like, I'm sorry, what? Like, you kind of centrally taking off your robe and showing me and like saying that, oh, because you're special and I'm special, we have to be special together. It's like, fuck off. And you would laugh in his face.
Did you laugh in the guy's face or woman's face?
Well, no, because I was too nice at that point, but I probably would now.
Was it tragic? Was it like, oh, here's this, and it wasn't even that great?
Well,
not the body, the item, the
item,
the stuff he was. Oh God, how the fuck do you word this without making it seem sensual? The things he had bought. There we go. That's the way to word it.
Well, no, because I don't care. I personally don't care. Like, I really don't see it as a big thing if you're like super rich. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not what's amazing. Because
do you want to know this?
So?
Do you want to know what I think the this is a theory, by the way. This might be proved somewhere, but it's just a theory. Do you know why I think people do that? And majority male will do that over female, in my opinion, is because they're showing you that they have money that they can provide for you. That's
like anthropomorphically, not anthropomorphic.
That's the lenses.
Not it's
No, that's it.
It's probably the right word. It's just
yeah.
it's funny. It's the same name as the lens.
No, anamorphic is the lens, but anthropomorphic only works for stuff that are not human.
Yeah.
Like a dog is behaving in a human way, is anthropomorphic kind of stuff.
Basically, the idea.
No, anthropologically speaking.
Probably.
Ooh, big words.
Shut up. In terms of like, yeah, of course that's what he's doing. He's showing, yeah. But the thing is that
for validation, actually, it could be like, oh, look at all the stuff I've got.
Yeah.
Can you validate me? There's that as well. It could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's total insecurity, and it's also totally misreading situations. I mean, I'm sure that there are lots of people that would be like, yeah, sure, I want money, and immediately get into bed with him. But I personally, I don't think I put across those vibes, and I think a lot of people don't. So I think there's quite a lot of misreading signs from a lot of people in those situations. The only reason I talk about entitlement and money is because this guy is entitled and religious, and I think those two. I think money and religion sometimes just hold hands, because it's like, I am on another level than you, especially when it's about religion. But I am God. Like
Jeremiah?
Yes.
All right, we've brought back to the film.
Well, no, I'm just saying that the reason why we're talking about this is because he had that aura of like, I'm at this point in my life where I'm super special, and not just special, I am God incarnate. What? How? What? I feel like God would not be happy with this man.
It is funny because it's a common joke when people go, like, people that think they're Messiah, like God would, if God actually met them, they're going, you're a fucking dickhead. Well, I don't want you representing me. What the fuck are you on about?
Exactly.
It's like, when did I say? When did I say I can have any woman? When did
Yeah.
I say that?
I mean,
show me where I said that.
I mean, it's a stereotype, but there's a reason why it's a stereotype, because there's like religion, cults, drugs, and sex. It's kind of all enveloping for some reason. And I think it's because they think you take drugs to get to your point on a higher plane so that you're able to actually speak to God and you have a connection with God because you're high. And then there's also, I don't know, maybe it's a connection between, like, if you're orgasming, you're closer to God. I don't know. All of these things.
No, not even God, like, and you're on a higher plane. If you look at Buddhism, like, it's all about enlightenment. It's about reaching a spiritual level. If you swap out the word God for a spiritual level, then, like, drugs, sex, rock and roll, sorry. Drugs, sex, money, all these sort of things are meant to take you to a higher level, be it monetary wise, you know, with money, that you can go to higher places, that you can own better things or whatever, you can validate your own existence. Or with spirituality, like, you're closer to realizing what life is about, or, you know, like, sexually and drug wise, you're on a high, literally on a high. You know, like, they say LSD, but you could easily sub the drug in this film from DMT for, like, Psychoville levels of tripping. And it's funny, at the very end of the film, he breaks from his sort of God complex for a split second of, like, don't kill me, I'll suck your dick, what do you want, just please let me go. And then comes back, like, that's not even, he doesn't even commit to becoming normal again. He just, for a split second, to try and save his own life,
with a
breaks.
Game of Thrones mountain kind of moment.
Yeah, or very much Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
Like, sort of face melting, evil being destroyed, you know?
So to answer your question...
Yes, I was sorry we went off. I was going to ask, I was like, Yann, do you have an experience similar to what Anik was talking about?
No, because I've always managed to avoid putting myself into those situations. But now that I've had years to think about it, I realized that I would probably go and see the guy. Like, on the side, is, you know, well, just stop your... I don't give a shit about your stuff, so either you're... stop that, or I'll just leave. So, but I don't put myself into situations. I don't go to parties that much. So especially, well, you have two approaches, right? So either you make do and you still go to stuff because you have some friends, but there is this one single guy that everyone hates, and you most of all, but is putting on the party, and you'll have your friends. I'll just avoid the whole thing.
Yeah, that's very, yeah. Totally.
I think I definitely didn't. And also I would come across, and I know this is kind of, you know, the stereotypes that people make about people, and then they act on those things, and they're like, oh, well, she must be like that. People would make them because I was like the party girl. I'd always be, you know, like, call me and I would come running. I would, you know, be very drunk. And I'd be very sexually aggressive, which I think makes a lot of men think that they can be like, oh, I can one up you, and be like, I've got a huge TV, and, like, now we can have sex, because of course that's what you want, because you kind of act in a certain way.
And when you watch it back after it was filmed, you can see it in 4K on his massive TV. Fuck you. Sort of thing.
No, I mean, never like that, but, you know.
Tommy, where's the DVD? Where's the video?
I'm also
you returned it.
No, I'm also totally not. I agree with Yann in the sense I'm totally not up for humiliation. Like, I think humiliation is not a way to deal with things at all. And if you want to tell someone, like, look, I'm really not comfortable with this, and I really don't like this, don't do it in front of everyone at a party. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but when you're dealing with someone at that level of, like, I am Jesus, and you're high from, like, a huge wasp thing.
Yeah, what the fuck was going on there?
I mean, that was terrifying.
That was a bit weird. I don't think I've got an experience like you two there. I don't think I do. I've not lived long enough yet, probably. I'm only 22, going on 23. I've not had enough experiences yet.
Well, and
Maybe I will, and then when I do, I will talk about it on the podcast.
you also need the time to reflect on them afterwards.
Yeah, that's very true, actually, yeah.
Because I'm reading Les Miserables right now, and I'm glad I never read that in my 20s, because I would never have. I'm just glad because I'm getting so many more stuff, and especially it's better if you know a bit what it's about before, because if you have no clue, it will. It's fascinating now because you get all those additional nuggets, but with no clue of what it is about. My brother asked me on the SMS the other day, like, so is it worth it? I explained, yeah. Well, if you know about the story and a bit about the characters, you know what's supposed to be going on. You're expecting that to arrive at some point, so that's fine. But if you don't, you're like, is anything going to happen at some point, or what's going on there?
That I have the same experience for it, actually, having seen the two versions and knowing the story. Reading the book was interesting because it spends a lot of time doing other things, explaining past events. Like we'll talk about in the episode that comes out at the end of in September when the movie comes out, chapter 2. I will talk a bit more because I've now read the book fully, and I'll read it again before. Well, I've got the audiobook, so maybe we could listen to it together. Well, before it comes out, although that'll take like 19 hours. Anyway. There's some stuff in the book that's excellent, and I hope some of it makes an appearance in some capacity in the new adaptation. Anyway, yeah.
I was thinking for actors, it's incredible. Also, if you have the chance to have a book it's based on, because obviously the movie is a script. It's like 120 pages and it's dramatized. But the bishop that welcomes Jean Valjean and with the two candlesticks. As an actor, if you only have 5 minutes of lines, you just have to work around that. And instead of wondering what the guy had for breakfast before the day, or if you go into the book, the first 100 pages are focused on that guy. How it's quite it's more philosophical. So there is dramatically speaking. Obviously, you can't have that on a page without adding anything because it won't work. All the conflict and stuff you have to add in a script, obviously. But as a backstory, it's just fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we finish by talking about Nick Cage? I feel like that's a nice place to come rounding back to and wrapping up the episode, unless anyone else has got.
I'll just reach the computer to see if I can find my notes.
Okay, no worries. In the meantime, me and Anouk will discuss Nick Cage because, Anouk, you're not a fan, really, of Nick Cage. Or to say Nick Cage movies. Because I think that's quite fair, that Nick Cage as an actor can surprise you by doing these amazing roles, but he does appear in films that usually get defined as Nick Cage movies.
Yeah, I think there are moments where I feel like it's just a bit self-indulgent, a bit over the top, and I don't believe it. And so, and that's not all the time. Like, after seeing this film, it's like, he's very talented, and I think he really goes into the character, and he cares about the character and the film that he's making, which I think is amazing. But I think there are just moments that he just steps over the line of being like, just, I don't believe you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at all these sort of films that he does, or even if you go on YouTube, there will be compilations of just Nick Cage being Nick Cage. In fact, don't we have isn't Molly super into Nick Cage? So I think I vaguely remember this, that
really?
Molly's either really into him or really hates him. It's one or the other, but yeah. I think she wasn't like finds him like really entertaining. But this is like a film, a role tailor-made for Nick Cage, because it just, I don't think there is anybody else that can be as big as Nick Cage can be. In the sense of the scene that Yann quite faithfully actually The only thing that Yann didn't do was down the whole bottle. I know it's water here, but it's probably, and it'll be water in the film, but the idea of it's vodka. Yann got maybe like 2/5 of it as opposed to like the whole bottle, but he does like pour it halfway down his face. He just goes for it, you know. He just doesn't hold back. He's unafraid of being who he is, and that's quite important, I think, actually, especially in this film. It needs it. So I think he does really well in here. I think this is a film that defines Nick Cage as an actor, you know, because it's so often to go Nick Cage is Nick Cage, you know, like Face Off or National Treasure or all these sort of films that he does, or, you know, The Wicker Man, the remake, not the original. How to get burned, how to get burned, how to get burned. All these sort of lines that you think, oh, Nick Cage, oh yeah, do that line. But this role is him acting, that's who he is. He's an actor, and it's nice to have a film that reminds you that Nick Cage is an actor. He's not just Nick Cage, I think.
I found the notes.
Oh, good.
I removed all the ones we talked about already. In terms of grain here, there is the video essay guy, nerd writer on YouTube. He does Mandy, the Art of Grain video, which I invite you to go check.
Cool.
Anyone? When I forgot to give his name in the opening credits, Bill Dukes, who was in Predator, here is Carruthers. You didn't realize it was him at first, did you?
No, but I recognised him. I couldn't remember the guy's name. I was like, I've seen him before. I know this guy.
Mm-hmm.
The dog he has is a Dog de Bordeaux.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Breed, and we kind of had one at some point that we gave to someone at some. But yeah, we very very interesting breed of dogs. Something I realized watching it yesterday, a bit like weirdly enough, a bit like what happens in Isolani. You've got the scenes sometimes. It doesn't happen that much in movies, but you've got plenty of fade to black.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And that I did think of Isolani when we watched it, because we saw that way back in 2017, which we'll be seeing very soon, actually.
Yeah.
Again, I'm looking forward to being able to go and see it after such a long time.
Yeah, I'm going to the VIP screening.
Ooh. Oh, is it in VIP as well?
Yes, there is one screening VIP.
Oh, wow.
Stuff my face with food.
Lovely.
One film that I've only started to watch the first 10 minutes because it was on Mubi at some point, Into the Void. It's one of the Gaspar Noé films, and it's a bit like if you're on acid or something. It's a trip, the first 10 minutes. It was like the same kind of stuff that when Nick put his fingers and licked the LSD.
Yeah.
And that's apparently the whole thing. So yeah, the 10 minutes was enough.
Wow.
I'll talk about that. There was the Hitler tree thing. There was a tree, and they made the cabin out of the tree.
Yeah.
The tree that was used for the book or whatever, which was great.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. True.
I think we can go into the rating and then have some other new questions for the questionnaire that I'll ask for us.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Do we have anything else? I think you got anything else about the film?
No, I think I've said everything.
The only thing I'll pre-surface, there's an intense scene with the bikers, and if you're of a sensitive nature, you might want to, make a cup of tea at that scene. But actually, no, that is something I wanted to do, because this film, for some reason, that scene made me think of the Serbian film. Now, one day, maybe, we will cover films that are quite controversial in their material and what they show, which those episodes will be pre-surfaced by probably me, and Anouk or Yann saying, in this episode, we discussed this film. This film contains this, and maybe read out the BBFC certification note going, if you're uncomfortable or would be made affect your mental health by hearing about this, do not listen to this episode, sort of thing, like a disclaimer at the start of the episode.
The problem with saying that, though, when you say, oh, this is a controversial film, it usually makes people think about it being intelligent and like kind of non-mainstream, but Serbian film is just absolute rubbish.
Yeah,
sorry.
If it was meant to do something, it gets lost within the sheer gratuitous of what that film it becomes. Anyway, the point I was making is there's a scene in this film where he goes into the biker's lair, and there's some stuff that goes on, and we see some dead bodies, and then we see an image on the screen, and the image on the screen tells you what happened in the other room without having to show you what happened in the other room, which is clever. And that's more or less the way you should do it. For example, in an episode you will hear in the future, you will hear me go nuts about a film that Yann made us watch that just started by telling us the basic backstory that this guy writes a book and he's very successful and the book sells everywhere and everyone loves the book, in like one of these montage sequences that just tells you, doesn't show you. This showed you without having to show you, which is a very clever thing to do. So I wanted to give props to that by showing a scene that kind of highlights how nuts and fucked up these people are without having to show you what they did. So major props in that scene as well. And handling something that would immediately get you a higher rating. I know this is an 18 already, but it would already push you into the realms of like adult. It would push you into that category. So well done to everyone involved for being able to portray something like that without having to actually show it. I thought that was very well done.
Something I regret, I didn't. Legion M produced 50 masks of the Cheddar Goblin.
Oh,
right.
Nice.
Like set replica. But I received an email and do you have like this, but it's limited, and I was too late, which is
shame.
But yeah, we can go into the rating.
Okay, cool. So Anouk, Yann, was Mandy good, bad, or just plain standard? Anouk?
Oh, good, so good. I think I have like 3 different ones. I think in like 10, 20 years, this will become either a cult classic or a masterpiece.
Cool.
But I think I'm going to put this in my vault.
Ooh, interesting. Nice. Yann?
I think it started it's almost a cult already. But good. And the word that I had when I was out the first time was sensational, but in it tackles the senses, that kind of that meaning that it's an overwhelming something that is overwhelming and good.
Very nice. For me, I know we've got like 100 categories, but this is almost its own rating category in itself, right? The Mandy category, where a film does something so of itself that it's almost unrateable, but not in the bad sense of like Ghostbusters. It's like it stands as its own piece. But I won't make it a category because we have about 8 when we're only meant to have 3. We've got about 8 now. I agree with everything that both of you have just said. I believe it will become like a cult classic. It will be one of these films that in time you will show to your children. Well, children, your teenagers, not children. I don't think it's in the vault for me personally. It might be at some point, but it's a very high good. It might be one of the top goods in the top 3 for sure. I know Alien is in my vault and all that sort of thing, but I think this film does enough for me that it's just below the vault and below masterpiece, because like Anouk said, it's difficult to call something a masterpiece if you just seen it. But I would put unique, and I'd put truly unique, not unique in the sense of like, oh, it's a bit different. No, this is truly unique, and it's truly an experience that you should absolutely commit yourself to seeing, because you won't be disappointed. And even if you are, if you are disappointed in this film, because there will be people that watch this and will not find it entertaining or whatever, you will take something away from it. You will remember it. Even if you remember it badly, you'll go, yeah, I saw this film, Mandy. It was really, really weird, in a good way or a bad way, depending on what you're into. But you will you will not forget this film, which I feel that there are so many films that are forgettable. That's really an achievement. So unique and unforgettable good for me. Cool. Should we put out, this bit won't be in, this will be taken out, the questionnaire as a separate episode, because this is like over an hour or whatever.
The questionnaire will be just 2 minutes, so
All right. Okay.
hopefully, well,
All right.
it's just 3 questions.
All right.
So with which, a milk in a wine glass questionnaire, new questions, woo!
Ooh.
With which production company would you really like to work?
Oh, Punch Drunk.
Oh, good choice.
Definitely.
What production company would I like to work with? I mean, I do want to work with. I always wanted to work with National Theatre. I really do want to work with National Theatre, actually, or with like the Old Vic, because I saw something really good at the Old Vic. But no, National Theatre for me. I think that is my goal in life. If I can get on in any capacity doing a National Theatre production in London, would be my ideal dream.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about Punch Drunk, but either Magnificent Bastards or Mischief Theatre.
Oh, okay.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the people behind Shit-Faced Shakespeare and the play that goes wrong.
oh,
I would love that.
That's
Yes.
oh, good shout. Good shout.
With which actor would you really like to work?
Well, now I'm thinking Andrea of Riseborough. Because after that, and then also Death of Stalin, I thought she was absolutely magnificent in that film. And I think it seems that she really goes into the character, and it would be amazing to work with someone that, you know, puts so much love and passion into their own character that you can play off of.
Director, can it be both? Or do you just want one?
Director. Oh, go on.
Director for me will come as no surprise to anyone. I'd really like to work with Ridley Scott.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Or Danny Boyle, you know. Either one of those two would be amazing.
Yeah.
Actor-wise, you know what? Is Tom Hanks, I think.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great. I just, you know, it'd be great to, because every film you watch Tom Hanks in, it's like, it's so good.
Yeah.
You know, there's never, he's rarely bad.
Yeah.
So I'd quite like to, and somebody you could learn so much from, I think, as well.
Cool. Edgar Wright and Taika Waititi.
Yeah. Great. Why? Yeah, Edgar Wright, you would jump. Oh, can I go? I think, can I jump back on the theatre question? Film-wise, I would love to work with Aardman as well.
God.
Anyone from Aardman, like Nick Parker.
It's too hard.
There's
to
too
find
many.
one.
There's so many, you know.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Al Pacino as actor, obviously. Before he dies. Okay, so reminding to everyone what the vault is that films that were so influential to us that they shaped our personality in some way. So right now, accepting the movies that are already in there and we talked about in reviews, what's your top 5 movies that you would put in your vault right now?
Right now.
Without developing...
Le Parapluie de Cherbourg, definitely. Nosferatu. Bambi. Bambi Dumbo. I'm just thinking about things that I watched as a child and they stuck with me. One more. Oh, okay. Shit.
That's a nice movie.
Also, shit's great.
Merde. Merde.
Merde.
The sequel.
Gosh.
Ass.
Okay,
you might have to come back to me.
Do you want me to have a go?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. Let's go. That's not already in there. Hot Fuzz is in my vault for sure. We will talk about that one day for sure, but I'm positive we will. Wallace and Gromit the Wrong Trousers is definitely in there. Just because of the train sequence at the end alone is phenomenal. What else? What else have I seen recently or I remember from my Rebel Without a Cause is definitely in there. It's number 3. Anything else? The Lord of the Rings series, extended cuts especially. I could watch them for days and days and days. And one more film that sticks with me. You know what? Actually, and this is quite a weird choice. Blair Witch. The original Blair Witch Project. which I think after Alien started me down the horror, and Saw started me down the horror sort of genre as well. So Blair Witch, I really like Blair Witch actually.
I'm gonna take out Dumbo and put in and like keep Bambi. I'm gonna put in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, good choice.
And Marnie, Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, okay. Cool.
We talked about this one a bit, but we didn't do an episode on it. On my vote is going Stealing Beauty.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Maybe we could do a 30-minute piece about that, because we talked about it a bit, but we could add like a 30-minute piece about that if we wanted.
Dead Poets Society.
All right, yeah.
Oh.
Love Actually.
Sorry.
And I don't have anything else in mind except the one which shares the podium with probably guilty pleasure, Idiocracy.
I don't know that one.
It's a bad movie, but in a good
Oh, really?
in a good way, yeah.
Cool.
I just remember 28 Days Later as well. Like, there's so many good films, man.
I know, so many.
It's too difficult, isn't it?
Oh.
And well, it's too recent to go into masterpiece, but it definitely can go into the vault, because in the last 6 months I've known that film. It's been quite influential. So, and then Apocalypse.
Yeah. It's a great movie. It's a really good movie. It does stick with you, and you do remember bits about it.
Yeah.
Just when you're watching other films, which is quite.
And
a good
that's good, because it's a musical, Yann. So
thing. I know, eh?
wow.
You're gonna have a real fun conversation. Is that how we're gonna start the episode in a couple of weeks? Where Yann goes, you know what? I really hated musicals, and I saw your movie, which is your music. So, how did you make me like musicals?
Yes, great question.
Because I tried to watch a few times now again. The Les Mis, the one with 24601.
I'm Javert.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm Javert. Yeah, you're not singing there. Well, anyway.
I love that
You will
film.
get the.
Impossible to get past. I need to watch it in segment. Whereas I wasn't able to even start The Greatest Showman, not even 1 minute.
Oh, it's terrible.
I loved
abysmal.
it, but I know that it's terrible, so I agree.
I mean, I know Jan's a great lover of Barman because of what he does for show business, but I mean, you can't make a musical about the guy, because the guy's no way you sugarcoat it. He's
It's
he's a bit of a dickhead, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, do we? It's the time when we can talk about stuff like, for instance, I just learned today that Ghostbuster 3 is coming out next year.
Yes, directed by the original guy.
The Son, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, the son even. They're Ghostbusters 3 back in the hands of somebody that will probably do it right.
Hopefully.
So you can forget about the terrible reboot that happened.
Oh, that was terrible.
That was cool. Anything else? I don't know. I mean,
Eggs. There is an egg right now on Instagram. That is the biggest, the world record liked. Did you see that?
what? An egg is the most liked post ever.
Okay, so on at the beginning of the year 2018, Kylie Jenner had like something like 18 million likes on her child picture.
All right, okay.
And
Oh, God.
this year, I think it was on the 4th or the 14th or something, I don't remember, a picture of an egg on Instagram appeared, following no one, was just egg gang, and something saying like, okay, so Kylie Jenner had all those followers for this, so can we beat her to get the world record? And they
did it.
They got millions and millions of likes and now of followers. And there was a story a few days ago, like, oh, you've asked and we listened. The egg merch is coming.
Oh, my
yeah.
goodness. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I would have liked to tell you I was behind the egg, but I am not.
I am the egg.
I am the egg.
The only thing I related to film was that it's the Aliens 40th anniversary, and I already mentioned that in the episode. So yeah. No, I don't think I've got anything this time. No.
No?
Cool.
Yeah.
Mandy, one of the good ones.
Yeah, good episode. It felt good to talk about that.
Yeah, really good.
If you like the intro and want more, just tell us.
Yeah, we've got some plans for intros coming up, and performance-wise, might be quite cool to do some another time when we see a film
Yeah.
that it inspires one. Yeah.
Yeah, Mandy is available in the US and the UK on iTunes for sure, not in France just yet. Also on YouTube, and it's too soon now to be on the standard streaming services, obviously. Netflix and Netflix just upped their prices.
Well, what is it now?
They added one, depending on the currency that you have, more on each. One something.
Well, I saw a caption that said, "Well, you've got to pay for Bird Box 2."
Oh yeah.
Which is apparently not very good. I don't think we should do that in film. I don't know. It might be like I saw it had the Hereditary curse, which somebody called it. Some article said it was the scariest film ever, and I went, "Oh, shut up," because that worked really well.
Bird Box.
Yeah, that worked really well for Hereditary, didn't it?
There are some really nice. I've watched it the day it was released. There are some nice touches. It's not revolutionizing. It's not exactly like A Quiet Place, but it's this time is no longer the sound. It's what you're seeing. I think it's worth watching it at least once, but not that many more.
I think the idea was taken from A Quiet Place, and it seems that A Quiet Place did it much better.
Well, Bird Box is a book.
Ah, okay.
It's a book, but I don't know when the book came out.
Okay, cool. That could be interesting.
I don't
read.
know if A Quiet Place is a book either, but I don't know. Anyway,
I think we're good.
I think we're good. This might go on the start of the episode. I don't know. I'll do a little recording here. Glasgow-based listeners, next week, because you're hearing this on Friday, Isolani hits cinemas for 1 week. It's well worth going to see if you get the chance. We will be delighted and honoured to have two of the actors and the director, Paul Wilson, in with us soon. So if you have any questions, fire them into us, and also go and see the movie, because it's only around for a week and it deserves to be seen on a big screen for sure. So go and do that.
Yeah, Cineworld, Renfrew Street, Glasgow.
Yeah, do that now if you live in the area.
Yeah.
And if you don't, drive here.
So we were
Adam.
Anouk.
and Yann. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard podcast. If you like what you heard, you can leave us a review via iTunes. If you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Good, Bad, Standard Podcast on both platforms. If you fancy seeing the live streams that we talk about on the podcast, they can be found on youtube.com. You search for Milk in a Wine Glass. There are other bits and bobs on there too, just to see what Yann's up to during the week. And if you really like us, like really, really like us, why don't you head on over to patreon.com/goodbadstandardpodcast and have a look if you want to support us. Any small donation is appreciated.